Hey guys, it's Dereka with Dereka's Designs, and today we are getting in the Christmas spirits. We are making this adorable little reindeer no-sew attachment for your wreaths and home decor. So grab your glue guns and let's get going. Well, hey guys, we are back, and here is a better shot of this adorable little reindeer. He is just so cute. I really enjoy making him. We're going to do something a little bit different in this video. I'm going to show you how to put a backing. I've had several people ask me about the backings on these attachments. Normally, I don't put them on if I'm selling it as a wreath attachment, but for this particular one, I will, because we have so many pieces that have to be layered. You may want to put a backing on it. So it's totally your choice. It's up to you, okay? The kits that we send out do not come with enough fabric for a backing, but this felt can be found anywhere, Hobby Lobby, Joann's, whatever. It's called cashmere color. Or you don't even have to use the exact same color on the back. You could do this just a dark chocolate brown on the back, and it really wouldn't make a difference. So anyway, so it's going to take me a little while longer to make this video because we're going to go through all those steps too. So let me set this little guy aside. Okay, so as with all the other patterns, you have all of your pieces cut out. And you do not have to have the black foam board. It just happened to be what I had and I grabbed. You can use the white foam board, no problem. It's not going to be see-through. We have a ton of different pieces and parts, and we'll just get to all that. You know, this is the part for the head, the part for the body. Now, because we are stacking so many pieces together on this, there's going to be quite a few steps that maybe we haven't done before. So I'm going to try my best to walk through each step so that you can understand exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing. I will try to explain it. Let's put it that way. So whenever I start a new attachment like this, I always try to make the little pieces first. So I'm going to want to make the little ears. I'm going to want to cover the antlers. Really, that's it. I mean, there's really not much else to do until we get started on the big stuff over here. So we'll just get these started. Now, putting these antlers on, it's not really the easiest thing. So take your time with it. Make sure that you just give yourself enough room when you center your antler. Now, we are not stuffing this. I should have prefaced with that. That's why I'm putting glue on the part that's going to touch, sorry, it's going to touch the felt. We're not going to stuff the antlers. I don't think they need to be stuffed. So, but you just want to make sure you center it the best that you can on the dark brown felt here. All right. So, because this has so many very deep corners, I'm going to put a slit in each corner. I'm not going to go all the way. If you're worried about the white foam board showing through when you're done with this, just grab a brown Sharpie or a brown marker and just, you know, put a little brown over it, or maybe a little dab of brown paint. And there's really no way to keep these corners and getting them in there one. See, even if I pull this apart like that, you still kind of can see that little bit of white in there. I have not figured out, other than taking pieces of felt and gluing them in there first. It would be a lot of work. So we're just going to go with it. If you have a brown Sharpie or even just a dark colored Sharpie, you can very easily just mark it inside if you see a little bit of white poking through. Okay, and this is like glue string central here. So you might want to, if you're sensitive to the hot glue, you might want to just do a little tiny bit at a time and hold it. I find that when you're putting it on just in a small amount like this, it's really not that hot. I'm not getting burnt whatsoever. And I'm just trying to kind of pull it all the way around those edges. And then we'll come back and snip these little pieces off. You can do slits all the way around. And again, you can cover any white showing through with a Sharpie. It's up to you. I mean, I choose not to do that, but it's absolutely something that you can do. You can put slits all the way around. I personally like to just fold it all over and then just work this around the very end and then snip the little bits off. You can see I'm getting glue strings all over the place. But I really like getting my fingers into it on these little pieces because you can really, when the felt gets the hot glue on it, it becomes quite pliable. And you can kind of manipulate it and tug on it just a little bit. I use my fingernails to just tug on it to kind of get it to go where you want it to go. I'm going to put a little bit more hot glue on that end that popped up. You see? And we'll just keep going all the way around at all the little places. I'm just going to do one side of this first because it is a pretty big curve. I'm going to hold it down with my finger. Again, always highly recommend getting a small detail gun, a high temp detail gun. If you're using your big nozzle, regular sized glue gun, you're going to want to put finger protectors or something on because honestly, there's really no way to keep the glue from getting on your fingers if you have globs of it. If you're really good with your glue gun and you can just put out a little bit at a time, then it's not an issue. But I know not everybody here is, totally 100%. I mean, you're used to just putting a glob of glue in your wreaths for a flower pick. And this is very much more detailed, much more. You want the glue in a specific place for a specific reason, and you don't want it just globbed. Okay, so one of the worst things about doing it with your fingers is the glue strings. The glue strings will drive you mad, actually. Okay, so we have, well, other than glue, let's try to clean all that up. You can kind of see it's hugging around each little part of the antler there. Might need to do this over something lighter because it's dark there, like that. And now we're just going to do the bottom. And these are straight lines, so these ones are much easier. I'm going to set it down and just use my fingers to fold them over and hold them. And then I'm going to put some in the end down here. And again, just the felt almost becomes pliable, so I just like to use my thumb and kind of push it where I want it to go. When you have a big piece like that, you can just cut it off. So, I mean, there's not much to this one. The other ones are a little more complicated, and we'll go over that when we get there. I have a piece of scrap, and you can see it's the scrap piece that has the big seam in it, but it's the back side, so I'm really not too concerned about it. So I'm going to take my bigger glue gun here just because I want a better line of glue. Going all the way around the edges. You don't have to do this all in one fell swoop. You can do a little bit at a time. I just like to do it all in one like that. And you're just going to push it down on your scrap felt. Whenever you're adding a backing to something, one of the hints is you never make it the same size. Always make it a little bit bigger. It's so much easier to trim this off than it is to try to line up a piece that is cut the exact same size. Just do yourself a favor. Go ahead, use scrap stuff and do not try to don't try to make it perfect. Now the pieces, these felt pieces that are cut to go over our foam boards over here are bigger than the foam boards. So if you're wanting to do the backing, I recommend cutting 2 of each of these. I would cut 4 of the brown felt, and then 2 of this head shape 2 of the body and 2 of the legs, and that way you would have a front and back for each one, and you'd cut them all at the same time. It would be super easy. Okay. I don't think this glue is really dry, but we're going to make it work. I'm just going to cut around it. Whatever way works. Sometimes you have to twist your wrist around to get things in these little corners. Okay, where are we stuck? And if you do, as you're cutting this, if you notice little bits of white peeking through here and there, this is where, just use a dark Sharpie. I think even if you use black, it would still not be near as noticeable as the white. So don't get too specific on it. Like I can see right here in the corner of this one, see where it's kind of open there and you can kind of see the white in there. A little dab of brown paint or a brown Sharpie and nobody would even notice it. It wouldn't stand out to where it would be so blatant as it is with the white. But that is up to you. I don't necessarily feel like you have to get too precise with it, but you know, it depends on if you're making it for yourself to use in a wreath or if you're making it to sell. Obviously, if you're making it to just sell the attachment, you want to take a little extra time. You want to cover up anything that your buyer may see as a blemish or an oops, or, you know, you don't want to get a review saying, you know, hey, it was really cute, but, you know, I wish you'd have taken a little more time putting the felt on or something like that. You know, people on Etsy can be very specific with their complaints. Okay, so we have our antlers done. We have the front and the back. So we're just going to set those aside. And now we're just going to glue our ears. Guys, if you have any kind of little clips like this, it could be potato bag clips, whatever kind of clips you want, it really helps when making these ears. In fact, you will need them throughout this entire project. So if you have clips and they are, you know, fairly big, they can't be little bitty, because we're going to go around, you know, the entire project as we go along here, then go ahead and get your clips out too. Okay, so the ears start out like that, you know, pretty basic. And then what I do is I put a line, a very light line. You don't need globs of glue here. And we're just going to fold it over halfway, fold it over a little bit more, and then throw it in a clip. And that's going to hold for you. So you don't have to sit here. If you don't have clips, then you will just have to sit and hold this until it cools off. So that's the only downside. And it doesn't take but a minute for them to cool off. All right, so that's pretty much all we can do on the beforehand making all the little pieces. So now we're just going to jump into actually covering our body parts here. Now there are some specific things you have to do in order to make an item like that, like him. As you can see with him, he has a headpiece, the body piece, and then these leg pieces back here. And that you have to, when you glue this down, you want it to be as flat as possible on the back of this board. And when you glue these legs on, you want it to be as flat as possible for the two pieces to go together. So even though this is stuffed, I did not stuff the neck. I did not stuff this section inside of the body. You never want to glue on top of polyfill, because what'll happen is you will get, the polyfill will automatically make it go crooked. I mean, I think that's kind of self-explanatory, but that is the reasoning behind me just gluing part of it. Okay. Well, here we'll start with this one because this we need to use this as a measure. All right. So when you take your little headpiece and you put it about right there, right? That looks about right. I mean, you don't want it up too high because then you have nothing for the head really to glue onto. You need it to be about right there, somewhere in that range, right? Like that. So it's a pretty big section. It's probably 3 inches in the center piece right here. So all of this and above is going to be hot glued directly to this piece of felt. And I'm just going to throw glue on it. That way, when we go to glue this head onto this body piece, there will be no polyfill in the way to cause it to sit crookedly. Crookedly, is that a word? It is now. Okay, so now, as you can see, we are glued all the way to there, just like that. And I just took the head, put it about where I wanted it, and drew this. If you're not quite sure, use this as your guide too, because this is kind of the distance of the neck, and you can just draw with this, because this is kind of where you want, that's how wide you want your neck to be. He doesn't have a skinny neck. He's a chunky reindeer. So now, let's do between the legs first, because we want to make sure we don't pull this too much. Now I'm going to cut straight up these legs. Doesn't give you a whole lot of room or a whole lot of fabric to pull it. I'm doing a Y cut up here. So it's a Y incision and a straight line. Yes, we're doing the Y incision. I'm going to put a dab of glue up there. I'm just going to pull it. I'm going to tug it. I'm going to pull that felt all the way up there, basically as tight as I can get it. Because this up here is already glued, so we can tug on that piece. But now to do the two side legs, we don't want to pull too hard because we don't want to pull all this over. So basically we're just going to lift it and fold it over. Like I said, you don't have a lot of excess with this. You just kind of have to use, I mean, you could make the legs further apart, but I felt like it just looked awkward with the legs too far apart. So this was like the perfect distance where we could still get about 1/4 of an inch fold over here, just like that. So, okay, so those are good. So now we will throw some glue about, I don't know, halfway down, not all the way, because we still need to stuff this sucker. So, and as before, I just grab it, I move it around, and I just kind of, this is a lot of glue. This is why I'm not a huge fan of the big glue guns. I mean, they serve their purpose. I use them all the time, but it's much easier to burn yourself. So I kind of walk it all the way around, and you can see there's little bumps and little things all the way through it. But since we're gonna, I mean, even if we didn't cover it, those little bumps wouldn't really bother me. I would rather have these little bumps on this back piece than all the white triangles from snipping it all the way around, if that makes sense. It just so much easier. And then you just flatten it out with your hands. Okay, now we need, I hope I have enough polyfill. Well, I did not realize we had almost gone through an entire box of polyfill already. Okay, so you have the front, this is glued, this up here is glued, the sides are glued. So we're gonna shove this in with our hand. And as we do, we can kind of see where the section is. It's not, polyfill isn't going to be able to go up there. You're just going to kind of put a light layer of polyfill in here. It doesn't have to be real tight. And just kind of go all the way. And then just, kind of smooth it out with your hands. So for this side, we are now going to glue all the way down to the bottom of this leg. We have not stuffed the leg yet. We just wanted to get some stuffing up in the body before we sealed this leg. So just kind of tug on the felt all the way around. Same thing with the other side. Get that polyfill in there. It won't stick if you have polyfill between the hot glue and the foam board. So now if you make it too puffy, you might have to flatten it out a little bit. Sometimes if you have too much polyfill in there, then you won't have enough fabric to pull over. So now I'm just going to go all the way down the side of this leg. Again, just kind of give it a little tug and pull it over. Just use your thumb and just kind of make sure everything is adhering like that. So now we just put all the polyfill up in this whole body section, but we didn't put any in the legs. So now what we're going to do is just very lightly use the openings at the feet here and put it up in the legs. Not too much, but if you have a little dowel or something, it might be easier to do this, but you can, it's not so far that you can't use your finger. So I have that one stuffed about as far as I want it to go. I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to stuff this polyfill in, like I said, or it will not stick. And you're going to grab hold of all these little edges. And I like to pinch my corners together. Like, you see the two corners, and they look like little wings sticking off of here. And it makes them really easy to snip them off when you pinch them like that. So then you just have to go like that and like that. And you have, sometimes you do, like this one just opened up just a little bit because it didn't have enough glue inside. So you just stick a little tiny bit of glue in that little hole that's right there. And it's not a problem. You're going to cover it, and this one I'm going to cover, so it wouldn't really matter. Okay. So lightly fill the legs. Like I said, you just don't want to do too much. I'm going to use my pencil really quick. I feel a little spot here that I should push a little bit of polyfill into. There we go. Just past where my finger could reach it. Okay. There we go. Line of glue, kind of give it a tug, and then just pull it down. Use your left hand, or use your whatever hand, one hand to hold it, the other hand to tug it and pull it, whatever handed you are. And then I just hold it with my thumb and forefinger to make sure it's going to hold. And I'll go back and snip off these little pieces. Alrighty. So I hope that explanation helped you. You can see this up here, no glue on it whatsoever. It's glued to the board. It has to be glued to the board, otherwise the head won't be stable. But then the body here is nice and poofy because it's cute and he's a fat little reindeer. Or as we call him, chonky reindeer, which he is. So I'm going to take these off my ears because I will need them later. Okay, so going on that same method of gluing this up here, when we glue the body onto these hind legs, we don't want any kind of polyfill in here because it's going to make it sit weird, right? So what I do is I take this. All right, let me show you. I'm going to move this up here. This is how I measured this when I made the pattern. So this, hopefully this will make it easier for you to know exactly where the legs go. I place the bottom, and the legs are kind of curving at the bottom here. I place those right on the bottom line, right on the line of my cutting mat. Then I take my body and I kind of center it. See it? That's way too far. What I want to do is line up my bottoms of my feet here with the same line. So the bottom of this foot right here will be equal all the way across with this foot and all the way across with that foot. So then what I do, and you have to kind of make sure you center it. So I'm just eyeballing it to make sure it kind of needs to slide that way. So I'm going to take my pencil. I'm going to mark that board. This is the section here where I do not want polyfill. We're going to polyfill these little feet over here to make them cute and puffy. But this, in order to get this body to lay flat, we need to glue this. So I'm going to get the glue. We're going to glob it around inside these two lines that I created. Doesn't have to be a lot because it is just felt. Felt sticks very well. And you take the piece that you just glued and you center it on the piece from the pattern. Okay. Alrighty, now this piece is quick and easy. So this is the way, whenever I have a long straight line or even just any straight line, this is how I do it. It just makes it so much easier. You put a line of glue all the way down. You take your piece and you just roll it over on itself. It doesn't burn you. It doesn't get on your fingers. You don't even have to touch it. And look at that. It's a perfect straight line. Of course, when you get to the curves, obviously you can't do that. But, and down here, you can't do that because we do have some small curves here. But I'm going to start over here kind of in the center and tug all of this up. You can get about 1/4 of an inch of stretch on felt if you really, really try. If you really, really need that felt to just move over just a little bit more, you can get just a bit more, just a little bit of stretch out of it. So always remember that. So now I'm going to do this. I'm not going to do the very end. I'm only going to do these. I'm going to wrap it around. Same thing with up here. I'm going to wrap it around this corner and get it started because I need it to be rounded there. That way these two can cool. I'm going to use a glue stick. Okay, so we're going to flip it around, do the same thing. I'm going to glue this down here, kind of just a little bit of a ways up around the corner here of this little foot. Still leaving a hole here so we can stuff it. And then I'm also going to go around this and pull it so that it's nice and round. And just give it a... I'm not going to snip these yet until after we fill them. So now we're going to put polyfill in these, but the polyfill is going to stop right here. It's not going to go any further because we glued it. So now you just have to get in a comfortable position. Use your finger, pencil, whatever you have. I do have a dowel here. Give me 1 second. Oh, there it is. This is a little bitty one. But sometimes when you're working in these little intricate places, you might want to use a dowel. Or a hot glue stick. Or just whatever you have that isn't slippery. Because polyfill is very slippery. And you just, now I can just use my finger. I use the dowel to get it into these corners, but as you can see, I mean, it stopped right there, right where we put the glue. So now we're just going to put a little bit of polyfill just to make the foot fill out here. Tiny bit more in the end. Get it all in there. Get your glue. Pull it over a little bit at a time. One little piece at a time. And then hold it for just a second. Give it a chance to grab. Now we'll go back and cut these off as soon as this cools because there's a whole bunch of these pretty big little loopy-loos here that we can cut off. Okay. And use the dowel again to just kind of spread it out in those far corners where my fingers can't reach. And then we just tuck it in there. Now, if you didn't make the hole big enough for your fingers, guys, just grab one of these ends and just rip it. Just pull it off of the paper. You can always glue it back down, okay? So if you did this and your hole is too stinking small and you can't get your finger in there and it's giving you all kinds of frustration, just rip it off. This felt right here will rip right off of this paper and it's not going to hurt anything. You can always re-glue it. So, you know, sometimes you make, when you're sewing, I do the same thing. I'll make the stuffing hole too small and I will have to use the seam ripper to open it up a little bit so that I can get my big old fingers in there. So don't be afraid. You're not going to hurt it in any way at all. Okay, so we have all these. You can hear my dogs out there having a ball, getting the birds going. So now I'm going to go back and cut all these off. And they're just going to fly everywhere. Okay. And we're just cutting these off. Don't really have to, but it'll make the backing lay down just a little bit smoother. So now we have a mess of these little things. I don't know if you can hear the birds, but they're definitely having a field day out there. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this down here because there really isn't anything else we need to put onto this. Let's just go ahead and get the backing on it. And I'm going to go all the way around. Again, you don't have to do it all at once. It's up to you how confident you are with your glue gun. You can do little bits at a time. I'll flip that over. Okay, we're going to let this cool before we try to cut that off of it. Okay, so this guy, one of the things I thought was easier to do on this, because you want to put it, somehow you have to attach this to your wreath. So I'm going to put a hole in this part that we glued here to put the pipe cleaner through. That way it'll be glued and it'll be really secure there. If you wanted to, you could have put a pipe cleaner through this one as well. It just depends on where you're putting it in your wreath. You could even put a pipe cleaner up through the head. I just put one that is centrally located, and that was, I figured if you needed more, you could always add more to it. Okay, so let's let that cool. Let's do this one. And we're just going to, I'm going to leave a hole down here in the bottom to stuff it, but the head doesn't have anything unusual. It's literally, we're just covering with felt and stuffing. So there isn't any kind of weird things we need to do for it. Down. Okay, just keep pulling it. Okay. We're gonna have to let that cool just a little bit before we can stuff it though. Otherwise, we might pull away. So we'll set that aside as well. We will put the backing on this one. Let's see if this is big enough. That one doesn't look big enough. I had some different size scraps over here. You just want a piece of scrap of whatever color felt that will fit all the way. Oops. And then what I did, my pipe cleaners are laying down like that. So I get it to where I want it. It's covering everything. And I use my fingers and I put a hole where each of my pipe cleaner, the end of the pipe cleaners are. This one is not wanting to cut. Put those through there. And we're just going to glue up here. We're going to make sure we get some glue on the top of the pipe cleaners there. Like that. Push this up. And now we're going to, you kind of want to make sure you get it down the side, fairly close to the side, just a little squiggle on the belly. I'm only going to go about halfway, and then I'm going to smooth it down all the way around these edges, because mostly you're wanting to do the edges. So take your glue gun and just slowly go all the way down the edge like this. Some more squiggles. And then down the sides, just like that. And that is the backing on how you put a backing when you have pipe cleaners in place. Now again, we're going to let that one cool. This one is cooled now, so we can go and cut it out. Just get as close as you can. You can always go back and snip off any little mistakes there. Okay, so oops. having stuff. Because I have an extra pipe cleaner here, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to put a pipe cleaner through down here. That way you can kind of see. This right here, oops, this right here is going to be covered by the body piece. I'm making sure I get through all the way to the back side there. I mean, it never hurts to have an extra one. If you don't need it, you can always snip it off. Okay. There's always one that's going to be difficult, right? There. So put it in there. Like that. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue in those holes. And you probably won't need a second pipe cleaner really, but again, if you're using it for yourself and you know what you're going to put it into, whether it be a work farm or a grapevine, if you know what you're using it for, then you'll know where you need your pipe cleaners or whatever you're going to use to attach it. If you're selling them, you don't necessarily know what your customer is going to do. So having an extra pipe cleaner, like way over here, like that, it really helps. It really does help. So, and then again, if they choose not to use one of the pipe cleaners, then they can snip it off. Oh, goodness. So I'm going to cut those off. And this is why I say always make your scrap piece for the back just a little bit bigger. So much easier than trying to line up something that is the same size. Okay, there we go. So he's all ready to go. So we're going to go ahead and attach these two pieces because we have them ready. And you can go back, like there's a couple of places here where I know I can snip it a little bit closer and, a little straighter, but it's okay. So again, to get it on there, I'm going to move this down to where both the bottom of my feet are touching this line. I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it right to where everything is straight across that line. I mean, I could do it up here, might be easier for you. So this line right here, it's all in the straight line. So now when you go to glue this, remember you've got this giant gap in the middle here. So when you glue it, you're going to go all the way around, but you try not to get any glue in that little gap. I mean, this doesn't need a lot of glue to hold on. So I'm just going to put it across the top here and down these sides. And that should be more than enough to keep these two pieces together. So again, lining it up on the line, placing this on it within the crevices that I created earlier, kind of making sure it's straight. And there we go. We're just going to throw some clips on it so that I can continue working while this is cooling. Like that. And so we'll leave that. Now we can stuff the head. Pull this back. So again, if you made this hole too small, just rip some of the felt off that you glued down, no big deal. It's not going to hurt a thing. So now I'm going to use my dowel, kind of push some polyfill up into the top of the head. I don't want any big holes or gaps or anything, so I just kind of use the dowel in my hands to make sure everything's nice and rounded. I'm going to push it over, oops, to this one cheek over here. Now it's just a matter of making sure your polyfill is Just feels nice and even. I'll use your hand. Like right here, I can tell there's absolutely no polyfill. So I'm going to just push this up in there, kind of make it nice and even without making it too full. And as long as you have enough felt to pull over, then it won't really matter, but you don't want to fill it too much. Okay, so I think we're good there. Shove that in there. If you hear that little squeak in the background, that is my bird, Evie. She has mastered the noise of a dog squeaker toy. So when the dog has a ball that squeaks or a toy that squeaks, Evie has her own version of the squeak. Yeah, it can be a little much sometimes, but sometimes it's really cute. Okay, so now we're going to put our antlers on. And I always just kind of, like, I don't know if you want them out far. I kind of like mine sort of up top because he's kind of a young reindeer. He's not an old one. So I only put glue on the very bottom section there. I'm going to set it on there. I'm going to grab the other one. I'm going to kind of maneuver it. While it's still wet, you can still move it around. So I think right there is where I want it. So I'm going to grab a clip, put it on there so it doesn't move. And then I'm going to put glue onto this one. I'm going to visually try to line them up about right there. And then I will grab another clip before this falls off. And we'll let those two cool off just a minute. While those are cooling, we can put our little, looks like a little hot air balloon. Sorry, I keep going off camera, but I thought I had this centered better. Okay. Okay, this little bit here is going to be tucked up in between the legs and glued there. So it's just a little white patch on his chest. Now, if you guys have any of that plush felt, maybe that we used for the patriotic dog or the sloth, you know, that sometimes you can make him have a little fuzzy chest. And you can also use the honey-colored plush felt to make this reindeer. I felt like it was a bit much since we've done so many projects with that. I really just wanted to do a basic felt project. And so this one I thought would look cute either way. But if you wanted to use a little fuzzy patch of that plush felt on the chest here, it'd still be super cute. Okay, so these are just the little hoofs. This one was not cut all the way. There we go. And literally, they just kind of go on the end like that. So there's no right or wrong way to put these on, really. Just kind of right towards the end like that. Eyeball it. It's a great thing about making these no-sew attachments. There's really no right or wrong. I mean, you can kind of go and do whatever you want with it. Once you have the basic pattern, just have some fun with it. Okay, so we have that. These little brown strips right here are for the front feet. Basically, it's just a little front hoof, kind of to give it some more color and more definition. You put them just right across the bottom of the front foot. I just go straight across like that. We'll turn it over and put some glue on the back in a second. I'm going to make sure they're kind of, oops, that's not even, kind of even like that. Okay, and I flip them over, and there's always going to be just a tiny little bit of overhang here, so I'm going to throw some glue on those like that, and use my finger to fold it up. Okay, so there. So it just gives him little front feet. Alrighty, so there's that. Now we're gonna do, the antlers are in place, so we're gonna do the ears. And we're just gonna eyeball these two. You can have the ears facing upward, you can have them straight out, you can have them down, just whatever you like. I guess I just did them straight out. I thought that was cute. Just kind of eyeball it. Make sure you have them, you know, where they meet the head is fairly, you know, kind of straight across here. And we'll clip on it again, so like that. Oh goodness. Okay, so now we have our cute, just basic little muzzle. No, I don't even know what you call this. I would call it a muzzle, I guess. I think I called it a muzzle on the pattern. We're just going to glue this down. Make sure you get to the edges and don't glob a whole lot of glue on this because it will come through this cream colored felt. If you put a glob of hot glue under it, it will bleed through and it looks dark and it doesn't look very good. So just barely make sure when you are putting your hot glue back here, use the nozzle to kind of spread it out and make it to where there's no big globs of glue. The lighter colored felts tend to do that. So this way. And we have our cute little red nose. Again, just throw some glue on here. And kind of figure out where your middle is. It's about right there. That's good. And then I included in the kits, but I did not put this on the pattern. 100% optional. This is a piece of white felt, just a little scrap. We're going to make a little half moon shape, and it's just going to be like a little glisten for the nose. I don't know why I like this, but I do, so I'm going to include it. So I'm literally just cutting this little half moon. It is not a difficult thing. It's a little thick. Okay, so we just cut that, just that little, I don't know what you call that, like glistening from the lights kind of thing. Oh, Lord, I put a glob of glue on it that I did not want on there. So here, I'll use this. I don't want that glob of glue to peek out, so I'm just gonna stick it on the side of the nose or wherever. I think it looks cute. Okay, so now I used these resin eyes. You can use whichever eyes you like. Now that I think about it, I might need to add this to the pattern because we had to resize them. They were a little bit large the first time. So I will go back and double check that. And you just want to, you can put them close together, you can put them far apart, you can really put them wherever you want. So I like them right there. We have a piece of black, well, I call it rat tail, but it's just satin rope. I'm not measuring, guys. I don't really measure much. I did his little smile off to the side because I thought it was super cute. So we're just going to add some glue, place it down there, and just sort of walk it around with some more glue. Now you can use puff paint, you can use regular paint, you can use whatever you want to do this mouth. Do not think for a second that you have to use this particular rope. This can actually be a little difficult to glue down because it's so skinny. But you can, if you don't mind, letting it sit overnight to let it dry, then absolutely use some paint or one of those tubes of the puff paint like you can write on t-shirts with and things like that. So yeah, just do whatever. Oops, now that one just fell out of my finger. we're gonna throw that one away. Sometimes when it sticks, it's not worth trying to save it. So we'll just cut another one. There we go. And you can use tweezers for this. If you are going to use something like this, I just use my fingernails. And then I set it. Wow, we really have some hot glue string issues here. There we go. Your scissors are a great tool to use because they typically don't stick. You're not going to get glue strings. If you use your scissors to hold down the cool metal, will not, like your fingers and your fingernails are glue string central. But by using just a little pair of scissors or something metal like that to hold it down, I'm already seeing glue strings that are going to be an issue. So I pinch them in my nails like that, and then I just put the lightest little line of glue on here. Just set it down there. Use my scissors to kind of hold it in place. It does take some practice with this. Like I said, if you just want to use the puff paint, fabric paint, whatever you want to call it, probably way easier if you don't have... Ooh, another big glob of glue. This little glue gun just does globs when it feels like it. Yikes. Okay. Just going to very light line. It's going to be a little eyebrow because I think it's cute. There we go. So now we're going to attach it to our body. Now you can see, ooh, actually we want to cover this first and put the little thing on. Whoa, I was jumping way ahead. Hold on. Now I just broke the glue gun. Jeez. Okay. So now, yes, we are still going to cover this back even though we have all these big obstacles. We're just going to kind of go around them. I'm going to cut off some of these big glumps in the back, just to make it easier. Okay. So I'm going to go down kind of with the top of the head here. Fold this over. I'm going to use the big one. Oh, well, maybe not. Helps. You have a glue stick. Okay. We're just going to go around the edges. I'm going to go up here around the edge, in there, up here, around the edge, no squiggles in the middle. And now I'm going to manipulate this. I'm going to use my fingers to kind of make the felt sort of go into all these little crevices around the antlers, around the sides, and just to give it a smooth look. I mean, it's not going to be perfect, guys. There's no way to make it perfect. We have so much stuff up there. All the, whew, goodness, it's a lot of glue. All the way around the outside, like that. Little wiggles in here. Down. Okay. Now, I'm going to fold an ear forward. I'm going to kind of try to get up behind here. We don't want to cut the little ear or the antlers, so we got to make sure we get behind them. Going. Now back here is purely for looks, so it doesn't have to be perfect. You're just trying to make the back look pretty. You know, and without, you know, it's when you make a wreath, you don't typically put a backing on it. So I don't think most customers out there are, you know, too picky about that. But now wreath makers who are buying an attachment from you, they can be very picky about that. So, I mean, you just have to decide if you want to put backings on your attachments or if you would just rather leave them open. All the way around the front here. Okay, now I have this little cute little collar. I wanted to break up all the brown. There was so much brown. So I thought, well, I will just do a cute little fun collar with some bells on it. And, you know, a little bit of red right in the middle. I am going to put my hat so it's pretty much straight up and down. And I'm just going to eyeball this into the center. We're just going to put it right down on the edge here so that when you flip it over, you can see all the cute little. And then we're going to glue the bells directly to that once we get the head on. So now we're going to glue this spot that we specifically left just for this head. I'm going to go all the way up to the edges there to make sure it doesn't overlap onto the polyfill. And this thing is just going to fit right in there. And you may have to wiggle it a little bit and make sure it's straight when you're looking at it. It's perfectly straight. But see how this red collar also helps to hide any kind of glue that might have popped out? That little red collar really helped. Again, oops. We're going to do clips so that it can hold it and I don't have to. Hey guys, we're almost done. What's next? Okay, we have bells. Well, I can't get them out of the container, so we're going to pull all of this out. Make it easy on myself. All right, and you can put the bells however you want. I'm going to put a gold one in the middle. And then just, I have gold, red, and green, so red. And these can just be cooling off while you're finishing up everything else, and while the head is cooling. Well, you really want to leave this. You want to leave these clips on at least a minute, guys. Maybe 2 minutes. Just you know, I wouldn't even time it. I would just finish doing other things and then come back to it because you want that to be completely cooled. I have glue globs everywhere. All right, so now I couldn't find the actual antlers that I most love. They haven't come into Hobby Lobby yet. They're actually, it's a string of them like this, and they're glittered and they're wonderful. I don't know if Hobby Lobby is going to get them, but these are the ones they had, so I was kind of forced to use them. I did have a few glittered ones left over from last year, but certainly not enough. So I am tying these bulbs onto this. The gold thread came with these bulbs because they're supposed to be ornaments. So I tied 2 on that one. And really, you don't even need the string if you don't want to. I like the look of the antlers being tangled in Christmas lights, but really, like I said, there's not much out there right now. I wish everybody would get their supplies in. That's all I can say. But, you know, we're at the mercy of our supply carriers. So, okay, so we have 2 on each one. And again, you want to use your scissors or something else to hold this down. I am just going to put a tiny little dot of glue. I'm going to take where my knot is in that thread. The metal on the ornament ring is probably not going to stick to the hot glue, but the knot that I created in the string will. So that's what you want to focus on. Okay. And maybe I'll put this one up here. Little tiny dab of glue. Make sure your knot is right there. Then use your scissors or something similar just to hold it. The scissors are cold too, so that's going to help cool it off. It's going to cool off much faster. Okay. And then, goodness, it's heavy with those clips on it. What I'm going to do is just put a little bit of glue on the back. I'm going to tug that over. Same with this one. Oops, that one came undone. just to hide these strings in the back. That's all I'm doing. One little thing of, and then I'm going to snip the long edges off. Well, it does not want to stay at all. So I'm not holding it long enough. Here, we'll hold it longer. There. That way, we're gonna, it will, see how it just looks, it's got the long gold, supposedly a cord, kind of, you know, it's not glued down or anything, it's loose. Kind of looks like he's tangled in some Christmas lights. So I'm going to put this one down here. Ah, stop. Got my knot on it. I'm going to hold it with the scissors for a minute. I think I'll put this one out over here. I can put it down there. If these pull off, one of the tricks I used on some of them last year was I took a tiny, tiny little piece of this dark brown felt, just the, I want to say like half a matchstick, guys, just a tiny little strip. And what I did was I would set that strip inside of this and glue that down. So the felt would adhere to the felt and automatically hold the little light bulb on. That is just another option. I think we can take these off now. If yours are not sticking on there like you want them to, or they keep coming loose, try taking just the tiniest little piece of brown felt and putting it through the circle on these light bulbs and glue it down and hold it with your finger. And you just need the tiniest little piece, but that one little piece will hold that light bulb on for you much, much easier. Okay, so we're going to put a glue there. We're going to put some glue there. We're going to grab these extra pieces, and this time we're going to hold them so they don't keep pulling up. It's cooled off enough that I can get my finger on it now. I'm just going to hold it for a second. And after I'm done with this, I would go back and with smaller scissors maybe, just trim up some of these really crazy edges I have. Like there's a notch there. I mean, there's just, it's not perfect. So I would maybe just trim it just to make it look nicer in the back. I mean, if you're going to do all that work, but by putting a backing on it, I mean, you might as well make it look, you know, nice. Or kind of, see, it's hard to get scissors in here. So I would need a smaller pair of scissors to get in here. But that's it. Guys, we're done. He's the cutest little guy. And remember, this one has the 2 pipe cleaners, and you may want to do that with yours. You could put a pipe cleaner through the head, through the bodies, through the bottom. I mean, however you feel like you want it to fit onto your wreath. Sometimes the 1 pipe cleaner in the middle is not enough, and that's perfectly fine. It's super easy to add them. When you're making it, it's just not easy to add them once it's made. So you kind of want to think about that before you get started on it. But there he is, guys. I hope you have enjoyed this pattern. He is super cute. I absolutely cannot wait to see you guys making these. You can make them in whatever colors you want. You can dress them up with things besides the bells. Just have some fun. I mean, go to town. I think he's just absolutely adorable. So I hope you enjoyed it, and you all have a great day. Bye-bye.